Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Here's a question. Can you get a ticket speeding on your bicycle? Could you be ticketed for speeding on your bicycle? Donald sent me a story that raises this question. It's out of Canada, but it doesn't matter. The question still is an interesting one. And I've mentioned before, I ride a bicycle. I have a mountain bike that I ride every single day, unless it rains, in which case I'm on my Peloton, which is a sort of bicycle. But I don't go terribly fast on my mountain bike. Mountain bikes are more for off-roads or dirt roads or trails, that kind of thing. But Toronto cops use radar guns on cyclists on bike path, and people aren't having it. AutoEvolution.com wrote the story. Alina Gorgon actually wrote it. They posted it. And in the larger scheme of things, having any police department send out traffic officers to get cyclists to slow down doesn't feel like a priority. But for one division of police in Toronto, that's what they did. And of course, there's a huge backlash. There is no speed limit for bicycles. And that's true in many places. For instance, in Michigan, there's not. We'll talk about that. But local authorities may impose speed limits in certain areas where it's deemed necessary. For instance, if there's a bike path that's shared with pedestrians, they might put a speed limit on that. But that wouldn't be a moving violation in the same sense that a speeding ticket in a car is. But there is a town south of Toronto, and it's got all kinds of signs warning cyclists not to go above about 12.5 miles per hour, which is, it's a decent pace. It's faster than people walk or jog, but you can do faster than on a bicycle quite easily. Several officers were sent there with radar guns, pointing them at cyclists to determine whether they were traveling faster than that 12.5 mile per hour limit. A photographer was also on hand, and the result was photos posted on social media. The accompanying post doesn't mention the words ticket or fine. It doesn't look like this was more than a local campaign meant to raise awareness, but people still reacted badly, as they often do. Toronto residents took to social media to rip into the PD for wasting time and resources to tackle a problem that isn't even a problem in the first place. And that's the question. Were there really that many instances of speeding bicycles causing problems, endangering others, accidents, things of that nature? Or was this just something that somebody decided, hey, let's go out and do this? Now, when you have speeding, impaired driving, reckless driving, dangerous traffic behaviors, the question is, should you be out yelling at bicyclists to slow down? That's what commenters on social media are saying, at least. Criticizing the police for making a mockery out of law enforcement. Now, in its defense, the PD says this was a problem because concerns had been expressed, but that ultimately the goal was to educate cyclists. The department said on Twitter, the speed radars were used purely for education and not enforcement. We received a positive response from residents. It depends. They must not have been checking out their social media feeds where people were actually ripping into them for wasting people's time, wasting tax dollars, and of course, making bicyclists think that they were somehow being targeted by the police. So I wanted to double check this and look up and see in particular what the laws were on bicycling in Michigan. And of course, the biggest thing you have to look at immediately is that the laws I talk about with respect to automobiles come from the Motor Vehicle Code. And the Motor Vehicle Code defines what a motor vehicle is. And a bicycle is not a motor vehicle. So the laws, technically speaking, that apply to motor vehicles do not necessarily apply to bicycles. You might say, Steve, why do you say necessarily or not necessarily? Well, there are laws that govern how you behave on the roadway, regardless of whether you are on a motor vehicle. For instance, jaywalking. You're not in a vehicle when you do that, but you can be cited for it. But that's not a traffic violation in the sense of a moving violation. So here's the distinction. I pulled this off of Michigan's own website. And if you want to see this for yourself, simply type in Michigan bicycle laws and look for the first michigan.gov reference, and you'll find it. Reference guide for law enforcement officers. This is what they send out to the police departments who ask, what are the guidelines from the state on what we should be focusing on with respect to bicycles? Bicycle is a device propelled by human power upon which a person may ride, having either 2 or 3 wheels. So a trike would be a bicycle. It could be a tandem or tricycle arrangement, but all of which wheels are over 14 inches in diameter. So the smaller wheeled things that kids are on, tricycles and so on, wouldn't count as a bicycle for the purposes of this statute. Keep in mind that each person riding a bicycle upon a roadway has all of the rights and is subject to all the duties applicable to the driver of a vehicle, except as the provisions which by their nature do not have an application here. So, for instance, you don't need to have turn signals on your bicycle. You don't need to have brake lights on your bicycle. Now, the operator of a bicycle upon a highway before stopping or turning from a direct line shall first determine that the stopping or turning can be made in safety and shall give a signal. And I actually often do this. So I'm riding down the road and I'm going to turn down a road, especially if I see a car waiting to see what I'm going to do. I'll point and indicate that I'm turning. I know some people are going to say, Steve, that's incorrect. Right turn, you're supposed to indicate like this. But believe it or not, if I do this, they know what I mean. So there you go. So indicate that you're going to be turning. You have to keep right. A person operating a bicycle upon a highway or street at less than the existing speed of traffic shall ride as close as practical to the right-hand curb or edge of the roadway, except as follows: when overtaking and passing, when preparing to turn left, when conditions make the right-hand edge of the roadway unsafe, when traffic is turning right but the individual intends to go straight, when riding as near the left-hand curb or edge as practical on a one-way highway or street. So if there's 2 lanes of traffic, you stay as far to the right as you can generally. If it's a one-way, you can actually stay to the left if you want to because you're still going with traffic on that side. Multiple riders, this is an interesting one. A bicycle shall not be used to carry more persons at one time than the number for which it is designed and equipped. So if I decided to have somebody ride along with me on my mountain bike, sit on the handlebars, or I'll stand up and pedal while you sit in the seat, technically speaking, that is illegal. It's a violation of MCL 257.658 sub 2. Now, is a cop going to write you for that? I don't know. Riding while attached to a vehicle. A person riding upon a bicycle shall not attach the same or himself to a vehicle upon a roadway. The question is, what do you mean by attached? Does that literally mean just reaching over and grabbing a vehicle and having the vehicle pull me? Because that doesn't seem like I'm attached to it, but I guess in a roundabout way I am. So, can't do that. Also, you couldn't, tow me. So that's against the law. Riding more than 2 abreast. So that you and someone else are riding, you can ride 2 abreast. You're allowed to do that. 3 abreast? No, do not do that. And I always tell my friends when we're riding 2 abreast and a car comes up behind us, just to get them around us, we'll go single file because it makes it easier for them to get by. You don't want them behind you. You want them past you. Makes me nervous having cars behind me. So don't ride 3 abreast or more. On limited access highways, bicycles are not permitted except for paths designated for the exclusive use of bicycles. So you can't go out and ride your bicycle on I-75. Operating on sidewalks. Unless prohibited by an official traffic control device, an individual may operate a bicycle upon a sidewalk or pedestrian crosswalk, but shall yield the right of way to pedestrians and shall give an audible signal before overtaking and passing a pedestrian and has all of the rights and responsibilities applicable to a pedestrian using a sidewalk or crosswalk. So I can ride my bike on the sidewalk, but as I come upon you and I'm about to pass you, I need to tell you. Now it says audible signal. I could have a bell. It's ding, 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 ding. I don't have a bell though. So I'll say on your left and I'll go by you. Or I'll say, hello, good morning, right behind you. And I'll let you know I'm coming. And it happens. Carrying packages. A person operating a bicycle shall not carry any package, bundle, or article that prevents keeping both hands upon the handlebars. So if you can keep both hands on, you can carry the package all day long. If you can't, technically speaking, you're breaking the law. Lights and reflectors. A bicycle being operated between a half hour after sunset and a half hour before sunrise shall be equipped with an appropriate white lamp on the front and red reflector on the rear. But that's, again, darkness hours. Daylight hours, you're set. Brakes. A bicycle shall be equipped with a brake which will enable the operator to make the braked wheels skid on dry, level, clean pavement. So they don't have ABS yet for bicycles. If they do, it's not widely available. Someone's going to go, yeah, I saw a patent for it. I'm sure someone's come up with a patent for it, but it can't be practical yet. But the point is that I can, if I want to, lock up either of my brakes all day long. I've got disc brakes on my mountain bike. But you don't do that. It's dangerous. But they're simply saying they should be able to do that just to show you that you can, if you need to, lock them up. Parents or guardians. The parent or guardian of a minor shall not authorize or knowingly permit the child to violate the laws applicable to bicycles. And that's an interesting one because we've all seen that where a family's out for a ride and there's the mother or the father and a couple little kids on bikes. There's nothing wrong with that as long as they're all obeying the law. But if they're out there doing something stupid, then the parents will get in trouble and they'll escalate it here because you're letting your kids get involved. So there are some general rules of the road, based on the particular facts and circumstances, certain provisions of the Motor Vehicle Code may, by their nature, be applicable to bicyclists. Such possible offenses include, but are not limited to, failing to yield right of way, disobeying a stop sign, disobeying a traffic signal, and then impeding traffic. But it says here, a bicyclist otherwise operating lawfully at less than the existing speed of traffic that keeps right as required is not impeding. So if you're driving along at 10 miles an hour and you're to the far right of the road and a car's behind you and I can't get by you, that's not impeding traffic because you are legally there. They can't get around you. It's their problem. But notice the bit about disobeying stop signs or traffic signals. And that's the other one. Because occasionally you see guys on bikes who blow through red lights, blow past stop signs, and so on. And that's dangerous. And it's dangerous for the bicyclist. And I know people who say, but Steve, if I'm on a bike and I blow through a stop sign and someone hits me, that's my fault. Oh, well. That's not what you're going to say when you're sitting in the hospital with all your limbs in plaster, suspended from devices. You're going to be sitting there going, I want to sue somebody. Get an attorney in here. And you're going to try to argue to the attorney that even though you ran that stop sign, the car should have stopped. And they're the ones with insurance and you're the one with the injuries. And that's how most people think afterwards. But here's the thing. I've been out driving my car before and had somebody do something really, really crazy in a bicycle. And didn't hit them. And I tend to empathize with people on bikes. I have one myself. But I still look at the person and go, are you stupid? You know? In a collision between a Ford Explorer and a guy on a bike, I'd bet my money on the guy in the Ford Explorer is going to walk with it unscathed. The guy on the bike, scathed. So you do have to watch out. But be aware of the fact that there are laws that protect you. There's a few you got to follow. But generally speaking, you're allowed to ride your bike on the road. And you can't get a ticket for speeding. At least not for violating the speed limit that applies to cars, because you ain't a motor vehicle. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Tough times never last, but tough people do.